Known for paper sacks on the heads of their fans, the New Orleans Saints, or more commonly referred to at the time as the Aints, were the worst team in football. From the beginning of their history in 1966, the franchise was known for their very depressing performances every season on the football field. Fans of the team even began naming themselves the Aints while attending games with paper sacks on their heads, embracing the lack of success. It took 20 years for the team to make the postseason for the first time in franchise history, and another 13 after that to secure their first playoff victory. Around this time was when the team began to trend upward, and it was 2006 where two key pieces turned the franchise for years to come. January 18th of 2006, the Saints made the coaching hire that would transform the franchise. Sean Payton walked into the building with a mindset to make a change. Prior to New Orleans, Payton was an assistant head coach and quarterback coach for the Dallas Cowboys. However, the next piece of the puzzle came from San Diego, California. Drew Brees, out of Purdue University, was drafted in 2001 by the Chargers with the 32nd overall pick. Brees spent 5 seasons in San Diego. However, at the end of the 2005 season, Brees sustained a significant shoulder injury that made the Chargers skeptical about his future, which is why they decided to let him walk in free agency after 2005. From there, he signed with the Saints in March of 2006. In late August 2005, however, the city of New Orleans was hit with a catastrophic storm in Hurricane Katrina, decimating the entire city as 80% of the entire city was flooded. The city utilized the Superdome, home of the Saints, as shelter for citizens who were unable to evacuate the city. The stadium stood as an important building in the relief efforts due to Hurricane Katrina. Over a year later, in a newly renovated Superdome, the Saints were finally able to return to New Orleans to play. The Saints took on the Atlanta Falcons in their first game back as fans funneled into the building for the first time in over a year. Early into the first quarter, Michael Conan, punter for Atlanta, lined up to punt it the other way. However, Saints safety Steve Gleason came charging at Conan as he blocked the punt as the ball was recovered in the end zone for a Saints touchdown. This would go down as one of the loudest plays in Saints history, not just marking the resurgence of their football team, but a sign of hope and perseverance for an entire city. That year, New Orleans made their first conference championship appearance in franchise history. Despite falling to Chicago, it showed the development and change that is exponentially improving the franchise. Back-to-back mediocre years in 07 and 08 before the season that would change the entire team's history in 2009. The Saints started a whopping 13-0 record before losing their final 3 heading into the postseason. Drew Brees put up MVP-like numbers as he threw for 4,300 yards and 34 touchdowns on a 109 passer rating. Brees also led the NFL in completion percentage. The team already locked up the first overall seed in the playoffs as they were preparing to take on the Arizona Cardinals. The game was a bloodbath as the Saints dismantled the Cardinals, defeating them 45-14, as Reggie Bush accounted for 217 total yards that day, as the Saints advanced to the NFC Championship for the second time in history. The Saints would take on Brett Favre and the Minnesota Vikings with a trip to the Super Bowl on the line. Tied at 14 at half, both teams traded touchdowns in the third and fourth quarters. Minnesota had the ball under a minute to go and were in field goal range before the questionable decision to throw the ball.
Favre sprints to his right, throws back across the middle, and he's intercepted. Porter. The return by Porter, and he's brought down with 7 seconds left.
And dove forward. But why do you even ponder passing? I mean, you can take a knee and try a 56-yard field goal. This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
Sending Vikings radio announcer Paul Allen into a frenzy, the Saints sent the game to overtime thanks to Tracy Porter. A game-winning field goal sealed the game for New Orleans as they advanced, giving them the opportunity to play for the Lombardi for the first time in history. It would be a battle of top quarterbacks in Miami, with Peyton Manning and Brees facing off in Super Bowl 44. Neither team could get much going as the Colts led 10-6 at halftime, and Indianapolis was set to receive the second half kickoff if it wasn't for Sean Payton in one of the gutsiest calls in Super Bowl history. New Orleans goes for the onside kick and recovers, giving the team a spark that they needed the rest of the game. The Saints had a 24-17 lead as Indianapolis rallied. Inside the 30, and Manny throws to his left, and the ball is picked off by Tracy Porter as he runs it back the other way, cementing his legacy in Super Bowl history and cementing a Super Bowl victory for the New Orleans Saints. Drew Brees took home Super Bowl MVP, and the team had quite the celebration as they got back home. Mardi Gras-style parades filled the streets as the team represented hope and resilience following Katrina. The residents of New Orleans were on top of the world. In 2012, however, allegations surrounding that Super Bowl run began to arise. Sean Payton had been accused of purposefully incentivizing players to go out and attempt to injure opposing quarterbacks, one of which being Brett Favre in the 2009 NFC Championship game. Payton was suspended for the entirety of the 2012 season for these allegations. Payton's decisions led to many fan bases to have a nasty attitude towards the Saints going forward. Across the 2010s, the Saints made the playoffs 7 times, however, never even returned to the Super Bowl. Across those 7 appearances, playoff heartbreaks tore the fan base, reliving what seemed to be the same nightmare in different forms time and time again. Beastquake in 2010. Heartbreaking ending against the 49ers in 2011.
Changes in the last 3 minutes, 53 seconds. 49ers advance to the NFC Championship game.
The Minneapolis Miracle in 2017.
Steps into it. Pass is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Vikings win it!
And the No Call in 2018.
Crowd's going crazy as there's no flag right on the Saints sideline. That snap. The kick is good. Rams win it and on to Super Bowl 53.
The 2017-2018 stretch of playoff heartbreaks felt worse than any other. Both opportunities to advance, and both times they should have completed the win, however neither came to fruition. Then in 2020, Drew Brees in his final game in his career fell to the Buccaneers, ending a legendary career. The New Orleans Saints symbolize what the city of New Orleans is. From perseverance in catastrophe, the Saints were seen as a symbol of hope, Drew Brees at the center of it all. The first ballot Hall of Famer accounted for the team's one and only Super Bowl victory. Despite the rough losses, he continued to show out. Since retirement, the Saints have yet to find and replicate that success in any way, shape, or form that they've had in the past, and it really gives fans the idea of how great they really had it.